Hello, my name is Esperanza Torrijos.
Hi, my name is Isla Olivares.
Okay, so my name is Vanessa Vega, and for our presentation, my group and I will be explaining the social penetration theory using real life as well as movie examples in order to give the audience a better understanding of what the theory is about. And since this theory does have another theory within it, my group and I go into more simple terms, or we try to break it down to simple terms so that both the overall theory and the theory within it are well explained. Okay, so the social penetration theory is the progress to intimacy and the process of self-disclosure between people. The word self-disclosure means when somebody starts to reveal more personal information about themselves to other people. So you can say this theory is pretty much about the growth to revealing and doing more personal things with people you start to get to know. This theory was created by Irvin Alman and Thomas Taylor in around the 1970s. And as you can see in the PowerPoint, Irvin is the one on the image in the top, and Thomas is the one on the image in the bottom. This theory is pretty much kind of explains itself, you can say, because when you break it down, it's pretty much just about the process of people revealing information, more personal information about themselves. In the theory, Alman and Taylor talk about how people are like onions due to the layers they're made up of. As they put it, we are composed of multiple layers, and as we peel back each layer of who we are through the act of self-enclosure, we build greater intimacy with our relationship partners. So in other words, what they're saying is that as we get to know other people, we peel our layers one by one, and while doing that, we're revealing more and more personal information about ourselves. But what they say in this theory is we do this in a way that fits appropriately with how we're getting to know the person. So what I'm trying to say is when you start to get to know some people, at times you have an instant connection with them, so you can start revealing more personal information quicker, rather than with people who you don't get that connection at first. Here we broke down the onion theory into more simple and straightforward terms. While reading a textbook called Communication Age, Connecting and Engaging, my group and I read that the onion theory only has 4 layers, but when we did more research on it, we found that it has at least, starting with 5 stages or layers, and can go up to at least 10 or even more at times. So on this slide, on the right side, we drew an image on how the theory was explained in the textbook, while on the left side, we went a little bit more specific with it. So in the textbook, there's this superficial layer, macro layer, inner layer, and core personality. But being more specific, there's the orientation, exploratory, effective, stable, and the penetration stage. So in the orientation stage, small talk and first impressions are made. Then we move on to casual friendship being developed, and then to a more effective stage, which is where you're more comfortable having disagreements with the other person. And from there, we move on to where you already know how the other person is, so you can predict how they're gonna act when you mention certain things or act certain ways. And then in the penetration stage, it can go either 2 ways. Either your relationship is already at its strongest point, so y'all have a connection that's not gonna break, or the relationship starts to end because y'all don't talk to each other no more, there's nothing new to explore or find out about the other person. So here it can go either way. Your relationship is at its strongest point and y'all stay together, or it starts to end and y'all just break apart from each other. Going into more detail of each layer, first comes the orientation stage. So as I said, first impressions, small talk, and icebreakers usually go down here. So questions like, what's your name? What's your favorite color? What type of music do you listen to are usually asked in order to get an idea or a taste, you can say, of how the other person is, and if you're going to want to continue to talk with them or get to know them a little bit more. Moving on, then comes the exploratory affective stage. Here's where casual friendship starts to be built. So more personal information starts to get revealed. So questions like, what's your take on politics? What are you doing tomorrow? When's your birthday? Things like that start to get asked. And by asking the question, what are you doing tomorrow? You let the other person know, hey, I like hanging out with you and I want to get to know you even more. Because in this stage, you're not completely comfortable with the person, but y'all do start warming up with each other a little bit more.
So moving on, we have the affective stage, which is where you start to develop a meaningful, more deeper relationship or friendship. You feel comfortable to argue with this person. You feel comfortable enough to bring up stuff that you're not comfortable with and you might not like, and be like, hey man, I don't agree with you for this. Or like, you're more comfortable to say stuff like, if you don't agree with what they're saying, you can just be like shut up, you know. Like, it's just the steps you start to move on in the relationship and you start to create a better friendship. And moving forward, we have our next stage, which is the stable stage. So in this stage, you can predict what the other person's gonna say. If you have, it's your friend, so you can finish each other's sentences, as people would say. It's a more comfortable friendship where you were just with each other. You want to keep seeing each other often, and yeah, you just want to see them, hang out with them. They're pretty much your close friends, as people would say. Lastly, we have the depenetration stage, which is where it's the most important step to develop an intimate relationship. So maybe with a partner, boyfriend, girlfriend. People, as they mature, they start developing more of these, and eventually you want to find your last one to get married, if you want to get married. And this step seals the process of which friendship is at its peak. You discuss life goals, marriage, like we said before, about like being with someone for the rest of your life. You start talking about like what happened if one died, or like a family member dies. Pretty much they're just in your family. You present them to your family, you know, and you might say stuff like, you complete me, or all that sunny stuff like that. You are comfortable with them to share your personals with them, share experiences with them, and it's pretty much the most rewarding step, because it's just a relationship that's deep and meaningful, and you just pretty much love that person. Here we have the onion theory in a nutshell. Pretty much it's so pretty much you have the exterior level, which is your simple likes and dislikes, and you share them. The middle layer is more personal, informative, and you just share more information about each other. The inner layer consists of our deepest fears and greatest hopes for spiritual values. And the center layer is the most basic self and it's who we really are and who we decide to share with that person. And as we were doing this project, I realized that I remembered about the movie Shrek, where Donkey is pretty much annoying Ogre with a lot of questions, and Ogre is telling him how people really don't get to know him, and that he has layers, and he's like an onion. So it just connected pretty much. So there was actually a reference of the social penetration theory in the movie Shrek, and this is a little clip.
Okay, let me get this straight. You're gonna go fight a dragon and rescue a princess just so Farquaad to give you back a swamp, which you only don't have because he filled it full of freaks in the first place. Is that about right?
You know what? Maybe there's a good reason Donkey shouldn't talk.
I don't get it, Shrek. Why don't you just pull some of that ogre stuff on him? You know, throttle him, lay siege to his fortress, grind his bones to make your bread. You know the whole ogre trip.
Oh, I know what. Maybe I could have decapitated an entire village and put their heads on a pike, got a knife, cut open their spleen, and drink their fluids. Does that sound good to you?
No, not really, no.
For your information, there's a lot more to ogres than people think.
Example?
Example? Okay, ogres are like onions.
They stink?
Yes. No.
Oh, they make you cry?
No.
Oh, you leave them out in the sun, they get all brown, start sprouting little white hairs.
No! Layers! Onions have layers. Ogres have layers. Onions have layers. You get it. We both have layers.
Oh, you both have layers. Oh. You know, not everybody likes onions. Cake! Everybody loves cakes. Cakes have layers.
I don't care what everyone likes. Ogres are not like cakes.
You know what else everybody like? Parfaits. Have you ever met a person you say, hey, let's get some parfaits? They say, hell no, I don't like no parfaits. Parfaits are delicious.
No! You dense, irritating miniature beast of burden! Ogres are like onions. End of story. Bye-bye. See you later.
Parfaits may be the most delicious thing on the whole damn planet.
You know, I think I preferred your humming.
Do you have...
Another example is from the movies of Harry Potter. If you don't watch Harry Potter, then this is gonna explain it a little bit further, but pretty much we have Harry and his two best friends, Hermione and Ron. Hermione is a know-it-all, and Ron is pretty much just a go-with-the-flow kind of guy. They're really little when the movies are first starting. They're like 11 years old, so everybody's just friends. Ron is like kind of like a little mini bully to Hermione, but so is she to him. She's really smart, so she has a smart mouth, so he's like rolling his eyes all throughout the films. And as the movies start to progress, they start growing up until they're like in their 20s, and little hints here and there let you know that Ron and Hermione actually start developing feelings for each other. And in the last movies is where you start to see that they really care about each other in that extra level, in the and they eventually enter the depenetration stage, where they are talking about their future, and Ron does something really stupid and Hermione really gets mad at him, and that's when they're like, we have feelings for each other, you know. In the last few movies, there's like they have a dance, and Hermione is going to the dance with another guy, and Ron is seen to have a lot of jealousy, which is the little clip, the little picture in black and white that you see here. And in the last movie, they go on a quest and pretty much go through like a life-threatening situation, and they get through it and they kiss. So like after all that fear and almost having died, they pretty much confess their feelings and kiss. And once the movie starts to end, there's like an epilogue scene where you can see that they actually end up getting married and having kids. So these characters really went through the social penetration stages and eventually ended up getting married.
The next example we wanted to use was Jim and Pam from The Office. So they show the onion theory because Jim is a salesman and Pam is a receptionist, and so when they first start working, they are first only co-workers. Like, they just only talk when they're at work, or if they have to do a meeting together, that's the only way they talk. And then Jim starts going to Pam's desk more, and they start like chatting a little bit more, playing a little bit more jokes. And so that's kind of like an example of the onion theory, where they start revealing each other's layers. And so then after that happens, they really start, you can see they start developing feelings for each other, but neither is like pushing it too far and stuff like that. And Pam was already engaged, so it was just kind of like a friendship, but then it turned into more. And then next thing you know it, Jim starts dating, well, they start dating. And so once they start dating, it just develops even more, and they start learning more about each other. And these are like more deep conversations versus like what's your favorite color, or what did you do yesterday. It starts being more serious, and later in the series you can see that they actually get married and they have children. And this took a matter of years. It did not happen all of a sudden. They had to really like start being vulnerable with each other and start forming those intimate relationships that they wanted, if they wanted to be close with one another. And yeah, that's a good example of the social penetration theory. Another key factor I wanted to point out that we mentioned in the other slides is self-disclosure. That is what Jim and Pam had at first. To get married and have those intimate relationships, they first had to get to know each other. So in this slide, I wanted you guys to reflect a little bit from your life. So reflect on maybe your past relationships that didn't work out, whether they were friendships or like a significant other, and think about why they possibly didn't work out. Did maybe somebody come off too strong? Was there not enough self-disclosure with one another? Because that can also be something that prevents a close relationship from happening. And then I want you also to self-reflect on what could happen if somebody is too direct. Maybe let's just say that if you were on a date and right away somebody starts asking you about marriage, that is where things might get like a little bit weird. Like, you wouldn't want to be asked on a first date about marriage. Maybe like after you've gone on several dates you might, but like on the first date, that's just coming off way too strong. And I also want to mention that not all relationships will make it to the end, because like I was saying, some people can come off too strong, which kind of like scares the other person away. Other relationships maybe you will feel more closer with, and they will last longer. others you might just get to the outer layers. On other ones you might get more into the inner layers. It really just depends on self-disclosure between the both of you guys. What makes a human human? As humans, we love to talk to new people. And we like to make new relationships. We never like to be alone, and when we are alone, it usually makes us sad. So it's really important for us to build those relationships. And as the social penetration theory states, that it's a theory that as time progresses with somebody, you start getting more close to them and you start learning more about them, and this is where long-lasting friendships begin. So relationships start forming into long-lasting relationships, and you can only get this far if you go through each layer. So from like getting to know them, like from simple details to getting to know them more about like their spiritual values, what they want to do one day when they get married, personal topics like that. And like I keep mentioning, that in order for this to happen, there has to be an agreement between both people, because if one person tries too hard, then the other one might get scared, and it can't be one-sided. You guys both have to go through this together in order to form a long-lasting relationship. Because think about it, if it's only just one person putting in all the work and the other person isn't putting in any of the work, then it's not going to work out at the end. We named this slide Peel It All because we wanted to give an example of what happens when somebody comes off too strong. And peel it all is kind of like you're supposed to like reveal each other's layers as time goes. But if you just try to do it all of a sudden in one day, then you just like strip everything down and you start getting to know everything about them like all in one day. Like that can come off too fast for somebody. So we have all gone through moments like this where somebody will like give out a really personal detail maybe when you first meet them, and you're not willing to do that because you don't know that much about them. So they only know like a little bit about you, but you suddenly know like a really personal detail about them. And that happens a lot. I'm pretty sure we can all think of a time that has happened to us, and it just really puts the people or that person in a really uncomfortable position that nobody wants to be in. So something that I feel like kind of happens a lot is when somebody might say I love you way too soon. And it's always something that's talked about because people always say like, when is the right time to say I love you, or when is a good time to start like telling the other person I have feelings for them. And this kind of like ties in with the social penetration theory. Like it all takes time, and usually it takes more than 1 week. I don't think you can say I love you to somebody that quickly because you might scare them away. It takes getting to know them from like a really deep personal level for those relationships to start forming. And in this slide, we wanted to include reaction pictures of people's reactions if somebody says like I love you too soon, or they start asking really personal things on the first date. This theory is very important because if you want to make those relationships last, if you want to build a good relationship with another person, you need to know how to be able to connect with them and make those long-lasting friendships, whether it is in business where you want to know them because you want them to be a mentor for you, or you want a significant other, or you really want to, or you meet this person and you really want to be their friend because they seem really cool and you want something to last, then you need to be able to know how to act that out in your life. So we got this quote from Di Julio, and it says, even uncomfortable conversations are good for our well-being. So this states that, I wanted to include this because when you start forming a friendship or a relationship, things may not always go smooth. There might be arguments, like it doesn't always go smooth, you know? Like even some of like your deepest friends or your closest friends, like you've had arguments, but those arguments sometimes make you closer to a person. So sometimes those like uncomfortable positions we're put in when we have a friend, those make us grow and they kind of make us feel closer to one another. And then I also wanted to mention that going through each layer progressively over time, not trying to do it in under a week, trying to first get to know like your different, like your favorite band, your favorite music, favorite color, and then that starts progressing into more things like, hey, do you guys want to hang out? And then start learning more personal things about one another. But in order for that to happen, you need to know some of like the basic details about a person. And then always be open-minded when people are talking to you or when somebody is talking to you, because if sometimes, well, it depends. If you do want this person to be in your life, then you need to be open-minded with them and not be too closed off, because sometimes in order for those relationships to build and thrive, you have to be comfortable with one another. There has to be a sense of vulnerability, and you have to be kind of transparent with one another, and that's where friendships really start to be born, especially long-lasting ones. And also pay attention if you see that this relationship maybe isn't working out, maybe if you are coming off too strong, or if you are, like we were mentioning in the other slides, if you are coming off too strong and or you say something really personal when you just met that person, it can kind of scare the other person away. So just take things day by day, and there really is no time limit because this can take time, it can take years, but it doesn't happen all in one day. It's over time, progressively you start getting to know them more and start forming a better relationship. I also want to reiterate that the social penetration theory, this is a descriptive model which shows what typically occurs in a relationship, but it's not what always happens. It's not a prescriptive view, it's more of a descriptive view. So just keep that in mind, that this is what typically happens. It does not happen all the time, but typically it does. I really liked an example that the book gave on social penetration theory, or on all of the communication like models, was that it's different lenses that the doctor, like the eye doctor, can make you see. So like the eye doctor will show you different lenses, and you choose the one that's best for you, or that's going to help you see more clearly. This is how I view the social penetration theory, that it's going to help you in the long run, and it really just depends on how you see your own relationships or how you usually see them form. And it's also very important because relationships are so important in our lives. They make us meet new people. They make us grow into a new person. They really influence our lives, and they really impact our actions as humans. And it just shows that self-disclosure when it comes to the social penetration theory is really critical. If you want a long-lasting relationship, there has to be mutual appreciation between both of you guys. And it just shows how, if you want these long-lasting relationships to form, that you have to be vulnerable with one another and trust one another. And it takes a while sometimes. You know them from afar and you start getting to know them more, and in a more, like, you start knowing like their spiritual values, like about their marriage, or if they ever decide to have kids, details like that. And I think that this theory is very important when it comes to these relationships, that as humans we have a lot of these relationships that we want to last for a long time. Thank you for coming to our presentation.